everybody. Welcome to our new YouTube series here that we're calling Rush Deep Dive. Over the next number of months, we're going to be deep diving into every Rush album, 19 albums in total. Each one of us, Donna, Matt, myself, Ryan, and Tim. Each album, we're going to be choosing one deep cut song or a song that has deep meaning to us. And we're going to be telling you why we like it and then discussing that song as a group. So without further ado, let's get to it. Donna, why don't you tell us your song from the Clockwork Angels album?
Okay, so first of all, you arbitrarily decided on Clockwork Angels, am I right?
Yes, well, we decided to go in reverse order, similar to how they did on R40, and we decided that Clockwork Angels would be the first good album to start.
Good. No, I just wanted to get that out there because people are going to be looking at this and going, why Clockwork Angels? My favorite album is... And
Power Windows.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We actually have a rhyme or a reason, folks. You stick with us. We're going to get every single one of them in there sooner or later. Okay? So first of all, with respect to Clockwork Angels, great tour, by the way. Had a lot of fun seeing them. Did you go? Were you there?
I was there.
Oh, absolutely.
3 times.
Ryan and I were at the same show, actually.
Yep.
We were not friends.
Yes, indeed. So I picked BU2B, Brought Up to Believe. Now, first of all, let me say that I read online that there were a few people who were, for reasons unknown to me, I guess some folks have too much time on their hands, there are some folks who were very upset that it was BU2B. Why don't you just call it Brought Up to Believe? If you've ever seen artists with their set lists, they very often write down on their guitar or on their whatever, and they do it with abbreviations because otherwise it like takes too long to write the whole thing out. Now, many people have the impression that Geddy Lee and Alex and Neil hate religion. Not true. What they hate is hypocrisy. What they hate is prejudice. What they hate is people who use religion to foster prejudice and hypocrisy. And when I heard the song, I didn't hear a song that was anti-religion. I heard a song that was about the simplistic way that a lot of parents bring up their kids. Now, I understand that when your kid is 5, you're not going to have a big, long theological discussion. But on the other hand, as kids get older, they really can take a little bit of nuance. They really can understand things in a more evolved way. And what the songwriters are talking about here is this really simplistic view of religion where you teach kids that the good will always be rewarded and the bad will always be punished. That's not true. That is not true. And it's an abuse of religion to say to kids, oh yeah, if you're good, you will be rewarded. And if you're not rewarded, you must have done something wrong. It says that in the song. It's like we were taught, we were brought up to believe that if something bad happened to us, we must have deserved it. And Neil, of course, gives a shout out to the fact that he read a lot of philosophy, as we all know. The whole thing about the Watchmaker, one of the classical defenses of the belief in God is that the universe is like a watch. And if there is a watch, there must be a watchmaker. Now, Isaac Newton believed that. Rene Descartes believed that. A whole bunch of great philosophers believed that, okay? So if in fact there is a watchmaker, and if in fact the watchmaker rewards good, why is there evil in the world? And there you get the problem. They keep singing, I was brought up to believe. Religion shouldn't just be about belief, said Donna, who used to be a chaplain. Religion should be about ethics. It should be about doing good in the world. But so many people are brought up to just believe. And then when things don't go the way they thought they would, they're told, you disappointed the big guy, and therefore you're going to hell. What a horrible way to live. And in my reading of the song, what they are talking about is much more the abuse of religion and much more the fact that religion is used to prevent critical thinking rather than just an out and out rejection of religion. Oh, and by the way, any song that has Geddy Lee playing the theremin, I mean, come on, how bad can that be?
I always felt that this song kind of was a follow-up to like The Way the Wind Blows or Faithless from almost both of them, really kind of a combination of the two roped into BU2B. But I mean, for me, when the Clockwork Angels was the first album that I could really get excited for as a Rush fan, because I had become a fan in 2007, 2008. So I had missed the release of Snakes and Arrows. So when Caravan came out and BU2B came out as a single, of course, BU2B as the single, it was a really loud intro, a really really heavy intro, and then that was changed on the album for the acoustic intro. And I always thought that was interesting, but it wasn't. I always thought this was definitely, based on what you said, Donna, makes complete sense and all that. But I always thought that this was a deeper track on the album because it kind of got lost in the shuffle once the album came out.
Absolutely.
Because
that's why I picked it.
Yeah, it was the second song on the album, and it was technically a single, but it wasn't even played live on the corresponding tour. It wasn't done live on the Clockwork Angels tour.
No. And recorded on April 13th, 2010.
2010, yeah.
It
was done on Time Machine too.
To you?
Yeah.
See, now when I heard, I almost tied it to Free Will in a way. Because the other thing they keep repeating, believe in what you're told, believe in what you're told. And the truth is, I will choose free will, like, or the line in one of their other songs, his mind is not for rent to any god or government. It shouldn't just be about believe in what you're told. It shouldn't just be about trust in some higher power. Yes, it is true. If you are a spiritual person, you can derive great comfort from a belief that there is a higher power. But that doesn't mean you just sit on your butt and do nothing. I mean, that truism about God helps those who help themselves. I mean, you still have to do something. You still have to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God, as it says in Micah chapter 6, verse 8. Notice that expression. You're asked to do justice. Not believe in justice, but get out there and do it. So my reading of the song was that this is another song where Neil is warning us. Don't just hand over your mind to God or government or some president or whoever. Think for yourself.
Right.
Put ethics first. And ethics is about doing, not just believing. Does that make any sense?
Doing the right thing. Being a good person.
Makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And you've touched on what I think is, the main concept of the album, such that it is a concept album, right? I remember when it first came out, my dad and I listened to the whole record in the car, like right as it came out, and we were like, concept album? Really? Like it wasn't as neat as like The Wall or some of the other concept albums where you can trace like, okay, here's our character who's going through all these trials and tribulations.
Geddy talked about it like pieces of a puzzle. He said each song is another piece of the puzzle.
The songs, when I started listening to the songs individually and then looking at them, I was like, oh wow, yeah, okay, that works. It's the same like thematic ideas that they're hitting on in every song, right? It comes back to, the this whole idea of independence and freedom of thought, and sort of not being tied down to this preset hierarchy of
if
the
you choose
watchmaker.
not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the strongest messages they had for their whole career. So it's fitting that they would go out with that message.
And may I also just say one more thing, and I hope I'm not being boring.
No, you're good.
Geddy and I have in common the fact that we're both Jewish. Geddy is famously non-religious. He's never denied that he's Jewish, but he's not particularly religious. But I have never, in all the years I've known the guys, they've never put me down for keeping kosher or celebrating the Jewish holidays or anything like that. It was never a problem. So the idea that like, oh yeah, Geddy's an atheist and he wants everyone to be an atheist. No, he wants everyone to think for themselves. Okay. And if when you think for yourself, the conclusion you draw is that religion ain't for me, fine.
That's fine.
But if you come to the conclusion that religion does give you comfort or does give you ethics, also fine. Geddy's entire thing was just don't impose it on me and I won't impose mine on you. This whole absolutism thing isn't useful. My way or hit the highway. No wonder everybody's fighting with each other on social media. I'm right. No, I'm right. I take a lot of the songs on Clockwork Angels, to me, are much more about that consistent theme of thinking for yourself and then deciding, what do you want to do to improve the world? What do you want to do to change things? And by the way, it all starts with changing yourself.
Yep.
100%.
All right, Matt, why don't you go ahead with your deep cut?
Yeah, so for this one, I picked Wish Them Well, which is a song that I think, is a bit unfairly maligned in the community as far as, I think if you're going to say BU2B gets lost in the shuffle, I think this song really gets lost in the shuffle because it's the second to last song on the record, I believe. And it's a long record, so you're getting kind of worn out if you like to do like what I do and listen to the whole album as one piece. But it's really been a song for me that, I didn't love it at first because it felt too simple for Rush. And I always liked my Rush very complex and very deep and thought-provoking. And upon first glance at the lyric sheet and then listening to it, it seemed to be musically and lyrically a lot more simple than a lot of the other stuff on the record at first glance. And then I actually took the time to read what the lyrics actually said, and I was like, oh my gosh, no, this is okay. This is actually, this is actually way deeper than I thought. And I had an incident in my own life where, it's the specifics aren't really that important, but I was basically faced with a situation where I had to confront the idea that somebody who had been my friend for a long time up until that point, and this is in high school, I think. Obviously, it's post 2012 because the record was out. So I was facing the prospect that this person would no longer basically be my friend. I would not have any real contact with this person for whatever reason. So it had come down to, how am I going to handle this? And so I turned to my dad, and my dad said, you know what? Just listen to this song again. Did you listen to this song yet? Because I think he expected me to sort of, pick it out as being the same message. But all you can do is wish them well. You know what I mean? Like, just go in, shake their hand, and, turn your back and walk away, just like it's in the lyrics. I mean, and
thank your really, stars you're not that way.
Turn your back and walk away. Exactly. And that's what I ended up doing. And it was, I don't want to say it felt particularly good. It wasn't like the best thing I ever did, but I knew that I had done better than if I had made a scene and, had turned this into a bigger situation than it had to be. And that's really a really valuable piece of advice. And that's what I think this song really brings to the table. I mean, it's certainly one of the more easily digestible songs on the record. It's not talking about a lot of, real metaphysical themes, although it can touch on that if you listen to it from a certain perspective. But I really picture, that they're talking about interpersonal conflicts that you might have, you know, you and a friend, you and a family member, you and a coworker, whatever. You know what I mean? How can you tactfully handle those types of dicey situations? And, you know, I think the repetition of the lyrics actually serves the song well because it goes to drive home the point. The song itself has a great drive to it. I always love Neil's playing in the intro,
it's very
particularly
upbeat.
the way he, yeah, and the way
The
he hits
topic
those snares
too.
always gets me. I mean, Neil just pierces through the whole mix in the beginning, and it's fantastic. It really gets me going. But yeah, I really like the song, and it had that little personal connection for me where I actually listened to it on repeat like 5 times before I went to school the next day and dealt with what I had to deal with. So that's
but
why.
Matt, you notice something throughout the song? We have once again the theme of choice. Okay, it's like you can choose to be bitter and come right down to the level of that other person, or you can choose to just go, hey, glad I'm not like that, and just walk on. Okay.
No, I was just sorry, Donna. I was just gonna say there are religious references in this song too. The spirits turned evil by the poison of envy, devil, judgment and mercy, hell, demons. There's religious references in this.
Absolutely.
I mean, which it makes me think that it's a continued theme that this could be about religion, but it also kind of, the lyrics are vague enough to where they can also kind of apply to any situation where one group or person is, you know, stuck in their ways or not willing to change their viewpoints, whether it be relationships or religion or politics or whatever, you know.
Oh yeah. And Ryan, as songwriters, the guys know that there are certain metaphors that are well known. Okay,
Yeah.
whether I believe that Adam and Eve really ate the apple, which, by the way, the Bible doesn't say it was an apple, it said it was a fruit.
A fruit.
Years later in the Middle Ages, it got turned into an apple, but the Bible never says any such thing. My point is, if I'm talking about, oh, you want to get a second bite of the apple, everybody knows what I mean, okay? Because it's a metaphor that's in our culture. So I think that Neil, whether he personally was religious or not, he knew how to speak the language of people who understood metaphor, who understood simile, who understood imagery, and he could call it up and use it. And in this particular case, there's a philosophical point, like we were saying. The repetition isn't accidental. The repetition reminds us we're back to, it's about choice. It's about, what do you want to be? Do you want to let events poison you or not?
I would agree.
Exactly.
I do want to say to Matt's point about how this song seems fairly simple, or as it seems much less complicated than a lot of the songs on this album. I was reading that this was written and scrapped twice. And almost abandoned, but Geddy liked the lyrics enough to keep going with it. So I guess the third version, third time's the charm, so to speak. But,
so Tim, what you think?
Okay.
Yeah, why not?
The song I picked was, by the way, I've been listening to the Clockwork Angels a lot lately. I mean, I bought it when it came out, you know, like a Rush fan does. But the fact that that's it. That's the newest. That's always going to be the newest Rush album. So I want to soak it in, and so that it's in my head as everybody as much as Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures. And I'm getting there. And the song that I picked that I just love is The Wreckers. And I love the fact that I think it's a perfect balance of an album that does tell a story. The narrations in the booklet help, but you can listen to each song individually and not say, well, what's he talking about? That doesn't make any sense. He's not, it does, you don't necessarily need to hear all the other songs, but as a whole, I think it just covers all the bases in such a perfect way that only Rush can do. The Wreckers, I think that is such a compelling chorus. The chorus to Wish Them Well is great too. So is the bridge. Thank you, Stars, You're Not That Way. I love that when they get really, really melodic like that. And the Wreckers is like that too. All I know is that sometimes you have to be wary. It's powerful. And I love the fact that the you know, like a lot of their songs, the chorus has such a different feel than the verses. The verses are very upbeat, like very like open chord strumming. But all of a sudden the chorus comes and it's like, you know, they're warning you. And it's, again, it's a common thing. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. You know, watch out for silver tongued, you know, whatever. Like it's, you know, use your noggin. If it doesn't, you know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And I love the story behind it too, in context of the album, like the wreckers being these fake lighthouses that were just there to let ships wreck so that they can pillage the ships and take the riches out of them. I mean, and you can use that as a larger, use that as a metaphor for so many things. You can use that as a metaphor for someone getting into the entertainment business and signing a bad contract. And
Tim, that's exactly what I wrote down, that it's a metaphor for.
Oh, yes. I can't pretend the stranger is a long-awaited friend.
Yeah.
Something that the guys
glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the illusion of integrity.
Yeah, I just love it. It's definitely, you know, a highlight on an album that just, you know, it's just a beautiful album. And I really don't have much else to say about it, except
if you guys remember live when the records was played, there was a really cool yet simple video that's also has it's also on YouTube with the lyrics in the video. I just wanted to point that out because I always thought that was really cool and interesting. But one other thing that I wanted to say about the records was, which I found, I was surprised, but I was shocked at the same time. This song was played, and Matt, you might know this because you're a sports guy, but I heard this in an outro on Commercial Break on Sunday Night Football in the States once, about a year after the album came out. And I was surprised, but like thrilled all at once. Was like, oh my gosh, like this deep cut Rush song on the new album is being played on Sunday Night Football, a nationally televised event. And I just thought that was so cool. And you know, it's kind of like
it's a little mailbox money for the guys.
Yeah, but exactly. That always stuck with me because I just thought that was so cool. But yeah.
So Ryan, what do you got?
I put down 7 Cities of Gold for my track. I think I did want to read the beginning, which I'm not sure many people know that this is kind of, I guess, written in the lyrics, but it's not sung. So the legend had passed down for generations. Far across the western sea, where the steamliners could not fly, lay a wilderness land hiding 7 cities of gold. I dared the crossing on one of the stout ships that followed the trade route to Poseidon, a tough port city. I worked there for a while on the steamliners that served the alchemy mines, then eventually set into the Red Rock Desert. The stones were sculpted into unearthly monuments, and the country grew cold as I traveled north in search of the most famous city of gold, Cibola. I think that's how you say that. Its name had sounded in my dreams since childhood. I think this is one of the best tracks on the record. I think it's smack in the middle of the album. It is the 7th song. I guess it had to be the 7th song, but it's not a title track. It's not a hit. It was never a live staple. It actually rotated with Wish Them Well on the Clockwork Angels tour. But this is just one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's just an absolute banger of a track. I think I think Neil was inspired by kind of southwestern U.S. history and how the Spanish. I think Spanish explorers would search for this mythical 7 cities of gold and say they saw it in the distance, but never actually reached it and keep going. They kept going back, but no, I don't think this song has any maybe it does, but any real deep meaning like some of the other songs we discussed tonight. But definitely has been overlooked on this album. I think this is a fantastic song. I think it tells a fantastic story and puts so many images into your head with the lyrics in this song, as do a lot of Rush songs. But it just, I'm always a fan of the songs that you get beautiful imagery in your head when Geddy sings them. But a couple lines I like that Geddy sings, and I just like his like his voice and kind of the inflections of his voice when he sings this. And the nights grow longer the farther I go, wake to aching cold and a deep Sahara of snow. And then another line where he sings, "Oh, that gleam in the distance could be heaven's gate, a long-awaited treasure at the end of my cruel fate." I always love those 4 lines, but absolute killer of a track. It's super underrated, super deep.
Neil said in an interview one time that the song was inspired by the Spanish exploration of the Southwest. And he said he always imagined, what if he were an explorer? What if he were born in a different time, in a different space, and that his entire thing in life was to be an explorer looking for new lands and searching for gold? Not like a prospector, but like almost kind of like an archaeologist, you know, like what will I come upon? Where will my journey take me? He said those must have been like really exciting times, you know, because you never know what's ahead of you. You never know what you're going to find. It's not like, you know, in 20 minutes, you better be there. You have no time, no space. It's all just, it takes as long as it takes. And he said the whole idea of searching for the cities of gold, you know, this is a very common image in literature. And he just fancied himself taking on the persona of an explorer. And, you know, you could lose your past in a country like this. You know, you could just, whatever you are, whoever you are, you will become that thing when you reach your destination. It's just an amazing image of the explorer. Absolutely. And Neil always loved taking personas from literature.
It's not unlike Xanadu.
Oh, go ahead, Tim.
I just said it's not unlike Xanadu.
Very much. Really? That was what I thought of when I first heard it.
Yeah, same.
For sure. And it's not like, you know, there's no guarantee that he ever makes it.
Exactly.
To the city of gold, right? And that could also, I mean, you want to find the deeper meaning. I think that's where it is. I think it's that last couple of lines that you read, Ryan, where he said, you know, the gleam in the distance could be heaven's gate, right? Like he's like, oh, finally, have I reached paradise or whatever, right? Take away the gold and insert paradise or nirvana or heaven or whatever you believe in.
Yeah, and that's also
have I reached that
in religion.
after this whole journey?
Idea of heaven.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's the
and
deeper
the
meaning,
throne
I
of
think.
gold and God sitting on the golden throne and all of that. Oh yeah. I mean, even if you're not religious, you can still take some of these images and use them to represent the eternal quest, trying to finding my way. Ooh, somebody should do something. Trying to find your way to whatever it is. You don't know where the journey's going to take you. It's just an incredible.
It's almost like the lyrics in Armor and Sword. No one gets to their heaven without a fight. You know, I just the more we talk about this, the more similarities I see in both of those albums.
Well,
they're almost sister albums.
I just love the Fountain of Lamneth too, like the end of that quest.
It's a great tune.
Smart guy, that Neil. Smart guy.
Yeah.
Rest his soul. People say to me, it's a shame that Neil is gone. And I'm like, nah, Neil's body is no longer in the material world. But Neil is not gone.
Yeah.
Neil left with such a body of work, and we will be discussing it week after week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we can.
Yeah.
That's a perfect segue to rap too. So yeah, Snakes and Arrows is next because we are going in reverse order. Stay tuned to the 4 songs that we choose for that we'll dive into next time. I think these will be probably monthly is what we're aiming for. So we'll see you next month. Take care, everybody.